here we have James talking to the church. And I love the fact that he's actually speaking to all the Jews in what we call the diaspora, or where the Jews spread out through the entire world. A lot of that was due to when they got invaded by Babylon and they were taken off as slaves. They're in Syria, all sorts of places. And so he's speaking to that. In fact, I told them on Wednesday night that one of the signs of the end times is when all of the Jews from the diaspora will go back to Israel. And so that's something that we can actually look for. But James here, we're going to look in the 4th chapter, verses 13 through 17. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there, doing business and making money. Yet you don't even know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wishes, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. Anyone then who knows the right thing to do and fails to do it commits sin. Wow. So, I picked up on this. I know that I preached on asking God for His plan for your life, especially for those like Seth and JW and Moses and all these young people that are getting close to those areas where they're going to be graduating from school and they've got to decide what they want to do, where they're going to go, what they want to be when they grow up. I waited until I was 40 or so to decide all that, but it's amazing how often we overlook this, the things contained in this passage. We fall into this illusion that we have control over our lives. And I say that I know that this is true of Christians just as well as it is non-Christians. But as Christians, we ought to know better, shouldn't we? We ought to know better that there is a hand, right, that is guiding us, or it should be, and that He has a perfect will for our lives. And yet somehow we constantly make the mistake of thinking that, no, we're in control. But I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. For those of you that do not know me well, I'm not a planner. Really, it's not really in me to do much of planning. Beyond what's just coming up, I don't do well going way out ahead. Margaret asked me the other day, what are you going to do for Christmas? And I just about fell over backwards. Christmas? I guess I better start thinking about that. I don't even like to, when I have times when we like Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and I have 3 services to prepare in my head, I can't get to the second one until I've completed the first one. And then I can really concentrate on that second one. And then what I'm going to do for that third. When you're ADHD, you really have to put blinders on. Right? Like a horse. You put the blinders on so you only see what's directly in front of you. Because if I start looking at all of this, I go bonkers. So, I'm not the planner. That's Paula. She's the planner in our lives. This doesn't mean I don't have goals. Okay? I certainly set goals for myself, for our family, and of course for this church. But I try to work on one goal for the church at a time. And I don't usually plot out what is going to happen and when. especially the when part. You know, have you ever noticed that? That whole when part. We wanted to have that sign up how long ago? That when part doesn't seem to work out for me very well. So I just, okay, you want me to do this? Great, I'll do that. So, I am very much a person of today. That's not a boast. I simply don't have the capacity to look beyond what I'm currently working on. Some of you ladies are, how many of you, this is widely known, right? That women are much better at multitasking than men are, right? It's the way your brains work. You can get both sides working at once. That's beyond me. And so, there are many reasons why it can be fruitless to make long-term plans. I have a good friend, pastor, who put out a 10-year plan for his church. And I have another friend who tries to get his sermons, topics, and all this kind of stuff set for the next 6 months. And that's just mind-boggling to me, because sometimes I have seen many just fantastic pastors have their sermons ready on Wednesday, and by Friday, God has said, no, I really want you to talk about this. Uh-oh. So if you're planning out 6 months, how many times during that are you having to go, right? But that's just not what I can do. But however, James isn't saying that it's wrong to have a plan. I was very fortunate that my piano teacher toured with Bill Gaither. So back in his heyday, I could go up on stage. She was selling his albums. You guys remember what those are? Black. And so I could go up on stage and talk to them, and it was really cool. And I got to go to a seminar that Bill was teaching at. And one of the things he said for worship leading was, plan to be spontaneous. That's a great statement. Plan to be spontaneous. I don't know about you. I know many of you know Crossroads really well, or Calvary Chapel, and my mentor was at Emmanuel Baptist. All of these, their services are very scripted. I mean, down to the minute minute. Because then that worship leader has to go and take the pastor's sermon and put it into a format so that it can then be put on the radio. So there's all sorts. But what if I just decide I want to sing all day long? Right? What if God says, man, you ought to do that song for another 25 minutes? Whatever it is, if you don't allow yourself to have that freedom, there's a problem. And so, James here is talking about how we plan out our future. And he's not denouncing a forward-thinking attitude. You'll recall, Paul said, forgetting what lies behind, I press on toward the goal. Now, those of us who have this weird personality trait can understand that you have a final goal. The former DS, the late Dr. Doan, had a brain very much like I have, unfortunately, and he called it mosaic. He says ADHD people are very mosaic. They think in images. They think in, this is where I want to get to, and the journey in between, I haven't really thought out that much. And so, having a final plan as a Christian is awesome. My final plan is, right? I'm going to be feasting at the banquet table. got a great plan. Anything in between, sometimes it's very flat. But what James is saying is to do so with an attitude that you're so certain this is what you're going to do. It's not only arrogant, but it's also a sin. You understand that? If you say no, in fact, I heard, I always forget his name, but he's the guy with the Scottish accent on Truth for Living or something like that. And he said he heard this lady talk to the grocery lady and said, I'll see you next Sunday. Or I'll see you next year, because it was at the end of the year. And he said, God willing. And she said, no, I will see her next Sunday. Let's look how the Apostle Paul puts it in Acts chapter 18. When they asked him to stay longer, he's in Ephesus, he declined. But on taking leave of them, he said, I will return to you if God wills. Then he set sail from Ephesus. You see there? I'll return to you if God wills. In fact, I will tell you that the only time that Paul insisted that he was going to go back to Rome, I want to go to Rome. Lord, I need to go to Rome. He kept that up. And God gave it to him. Guess how he went to Rome? In chains. And he wouldn't leave there with his head because they cut it off. Sometimes we can insist on stuff that isn't necessarily the best for us. But Paul, see here, he says, I'll return to you if God wills. That's the way we should be looking at all of our life. And understanding when we say, I'm going to go here if God wills. I'm going to go do this if that's God's will. Paul usually added that condition to his plans. Paul understood that he might want to go somewhere or do something, but God's will is the overriding factor. You'll recall Jesus said, if you can take this from me, right? And then he said, but not my will, but your will be done. And we're told by Jesus how important this attitude is, right? Because when, just a month or so ago, we talked about the Lord's Prayer, and the idea that that is it's not a rote message we're supposed to tell God. That wasn't the idea. We're not supposed to repeat that all the time. Jesus said, pray in this way. And so when he did, he was giving them all the things that we should be praying for, and we should include in our prayers. And part of that was, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Right? So Jesus, in two different occasions, shows us the importance of understanding that it is God's will and not ours that must be the overriding factor in our desires and in our hearts. Let's look at another place where Paul states God's will would manifest itself. Colossians 4:12. Epaphras, who is one of you, a servant of Christ Jesus, greets you. He is always wrestling in his prayers on your behalf, so that you may stand mature and fully assured in everything that God wills. Now, I'm going to ask for those that come on Wednesday nights, do you guys remember what that word mature? What's another word for that? Complete. What's another one? Perfect. Okay? That word, that Greek word, is the word when you read in the Bible where Jesus said, be ye therefore perfect, even as my Father in heaven is. It's the same word that we get that mature from. And it means to be what God created you to be. God is was, is, and always will be exactly who he is supposed to be. He never changes. In our case, we have to get there to be what God created us to be. Some of us are a little slower getting there than others. But we are to get to the place where we can stand mature and fully assured in everything that God wills. You'll notice he didn't say that they should be fully assured in everything and anything. Well, that'd be tough, right? No matter what it is, I'm just going to be positive. He said that they should be able to withstand anything that comes their way. That's part of the mature part. And to fulfill everything that God wants of them. That's the everything that God wills. The more you surrender to God's will, the more often you will be sure that your actions are right. Isn't that funny the way that works? The more often you're surrendered, the more often you are doing exactly what God wants you to do. And so the more often you can be sure that what you're doing is right. Everyone has a dream, sometimes more than one, of who and what they want to be. In fact, sometimes as parents, we have a dream of who and what we want our kids to be, right? My parents wanted me to grow up and be a famous pianist. That wasn't what God really wanted from me, but that was their dream. I wanted to be a basketball player. And I worked very hard at it, got pretty good. There's a problem about being a basketball player. There's a thing about height. There's a saying they always talk about in the NBA, you can't teach tall. You know, you just can't. And so, but we all have these dreams. I want to do this and I want to do that. I hope my kid can do this or they can do that. And the thing is, sometimes those plans come to fruition. Have you people known somebody that is always able to just go, here's what I'm going to do, this, and this. And they do it all in that order, and they get done and they go. I've seen that. I've also seen people that do that and get out of college and can't find a job and work at McDonald's. Right? It happens a lot. But sometimes those plans that we had and those dreams, they die a slow and painful death. Basketball did for me. 6 knee surgeries, broken hands, all those kinds of things. When I knew that wasn't where I should be concentrating my efforts, but I'm a little stubborn. And it took me a while. Let's put this, this is Latin. Deo volente. Means God wills. God is willing. Back in the old days, people used to see this quite often. And they'd say, I'm going to go do this, if God wills. Deo volente. And they would say this over and over. That's a great idea to put in your head. You know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to come in and do this. You know, I can make that plan in my head. I've got some more cameras to put up here. And so tomorrow, I'd like to come down and put these cameras up. However, if God makes it 104, I'm not going outside to put those cameras up on the roof. If God wills, I'll be down here. If he brings something else, this is especially true in pastors' lives. Pastors can get so focused on studying. My dad was like that. He would be in his study for 8 or 9 hours at a time. We can get so focused on studying and all this kind of stuff that we miss the chance to fellowship and to become comfortable in our people's presence. Now, maybe some of you don't have that problem. Maybe you're much better at multitasking. But here's the thing. God wants us to always remember that He is in control. We can put out all those plans we think we want. But inevitably, His will needs to be done. Stevie and I are very fortunate that Paula forewent. Most of you know that we go on a big vacation every 5 years of our anniversaries, and this was our 30th. And we were supposed to go to Ireland and Scotland. But Stevie's graduated from high school, thank you, sorry. And it's his 18th birthday, and so Paula gave up her time on our anniversary together so that Stevie and I could go to the Galapagos and go scuba diving, and which we will be doing. We'll leave here next Saturday morning. God willing. And that's what I was going to say. Yeah. So, I've got all these plans. They said it's a great time of year to dive with whale sharks. Wow. Just the thought of that is incredible. With schooling mantas and with schooling hammerhead sharks, there's all this stuff that may happen. But you know what? I could be sick on that boat for 7 days. I don't know. I don't know what God has planned. It's always great to remember, I'd like to do this, I'd love to do this, if God wills. Let's bow our heads.